Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's training session. We will talk about the CENELEC Committee Internal Voting Tool this afternoon. So it's a new tool. We will discover that later on. So there is a PowerPoint presentation, but you will also see that there is a part that is more a demo that we go online to show you how it works. So first of all, please be informed that you're all muted this afternoon. So you can use the questions and answer panel in the GoToWebinar panel to submit your questions, and they will be handled after the presentation. So please feel free to enter them whenever you feel the need. My name is Els, and I'm working as a project manager in the System Intelligence and Communication Unit here at CCMC in Brussels. And I will be presenting you the CENELEC CIV this afternoon. So what is on the agenda? Of course, I will explain you what it is. We will see how you can have access to it. Then there is a little word about the workflow that is behind it. You will also see that we have email notifications related to the tool. I'll explain a bit the different voting roles. And then we go online and have a look at the interface of the CIV. I will show you how to create a vote and edit a vote should that be necessary. And then we'll see how a voter should vote, or eventually a commenter should comment. And then afterwards, we see how the vote owner can consult and process the votes if needed. So the CIV stands for CENELEC Committee Internal Voting, and is similar to what we have for CEN, which is there called the CIB, the CEN Committee Internal Balloting. The access permissions to CIV are granted via the Expert Management System, what we call the EMS. And the vote owners of the CIV are automatically given access, in fact, because these are the CENELEC TC and subcommittee secretaries. Then we have a voter role. These are, in fact, representatives of the CENELEC national committees, of course, and these roles are given by the administrators of the national committees, also via the expert management system. And lastly, we have the commenters. These are the external liaison organizations and consultants that might have the right to comment on open votes. And these last ones are given access by CCMC here internally. Now, access is possible via the CENELEC website. You will see there in the tool section on the home page the electronic voting option. And since today, in fact, we have added a third tab under the voting section called Committee Internal Voting. And with that tab, you can access the CENELEC CIV, where you have the possibility, of course, to log in. Like I said, your login is granted depending on your role, in fact, and your login is the same as the one used for the collaboration tool or the expert management system. So in case you should have lost your password, you can always ask for a reset via the homepage of the collaboration. Now, how does the tool or the system work? First of all, there should be at some moment, vote creation. So the TC or subcommittee secretary will create the voting questionnaire via the CENELEC CIV application. Opening a vote or creating a vote means that there is an opening date, of course, of the vote. At the moment that the vote is open for the voters, the notification will be sent to the persons that have the vote permissions, of course. And during the opening of the vote, they can start voting via the tool. Or submitting comments, of course, in case you have a commenter role. You also see that there are some reminders related to the system. For example, we sent a reminder to all authorized voters 4 weeks and 1 week before the vote closure, in case you should need that to fill in the vote or to submit it. And when the vote is closed, there's also a notification sent to everybody. Afterwards, when the vote is closed, the possibility is there to follow up on the votes by the DC or subcommittee secretary, of course, which also means that there is no possibility anymore to vote or comment. and the secretary is then supposed to process the comments accordingly, and if it's necessary, submit the decision to CCMC. Now, I've mentioned this already a bit. We have notifications related to the system. So whenever a vote opens, all the authorized voters will receive an email notification telling them that they can start voting. And the same is true for a reminder 4 weeks and 1 week before the closure of the vote. And also there's a confirmation of the closure of the vote. You see on this slide a little example of a reminder saying that the votes for the following documents will be closing the next week. You also see that that mail has a hyperlink, which makes it easy for you to click on, and then with your login details, you go directly to the voting form of that specific vote. Yes, I've slightly mentioned this in the introduction. So it's important to understand that the vote owner is always the TC or subcommittee secretary. It's an automatic role, so if a person has the TC or subcommittee secretary role granted via the EMS, that person also has the possibility to create votes in the CENELEC CIV. You see that the assistant secretary is not granted that permission, so that's important to know as well. On the other hand, the voter is the one authorized to vote on behalf of the national member. So here it are the national committee administrators that are supposed to grant the accesses. You normally have received a mail on the 5th of June telling the fact that the voters should be granted accesses via the EMS. So that process should have started already. Should you be an authorized voter for some specific committees, but you do not have the option to log in yet, we of course advise you to contact your national committee. On the other hand, there is the commenter role. So these are persons representing an organization without vote roles. They can only submit comments. These are granted, the accesses at least are granted by CCMC here. And we give access to 1 person per organization. And then the last one is an administrator role, of course. This is for the CCMC internal administrator that has access to all the votes for all technical bodies of CENELEC. Now, let us go online to have a look at the CIV interface. Over here. Because via the interface, you will see different tabs. First of all, open and closed. These are the tabs that are visible for the vote owner. So TC secretary in this case. I'm logged in here as a TC secretary of a specific committee of CENELEC. You can jump from open to closed if you want. This is not visible for voters, of course, or commenters. This is only visible for the secretary. The same is true for the add button, where the secretary can start creating a vote. Now let's do that. If I click on add, you will see that there is a basic template opening, of course, asking you to select the committee for which you want to open a vote. This is or can be a list if you are secretary of more than 1 technical body. So in this case, I'm set up here as secretary of subcommittee 9XA. And then the system asks you for a vote reference and a vote title. Now, let's just call it test new work item. And the difference between the reference and the title is that the reference will be visible in the list of the votes whenever a voter consults the list, whereas the title is more a kind of description that allows you to fill in or to describe a bit more what this vote is about. Something like this. Now you see here that you have the possibility to enter a document hyperlink. By the way, you see that the ones with the asterisks are compulsory, whereas the document hyperlink is not compulsory. But in case that the vote is related to a specific document, it might be useful to add it here. Now, adding a document is not saying please or writing please see document on collaboration tool. No, we advise you to go online. Let me have a look here. I have it open, I think. No, not anymore. here. So if you're on collaboration tool and you're working as secretary on a document, you just uploaded the document and you want to open a vote on that, you simply select the hyperlink from that page and you paste it into the document hyperlink section of your vote, like this. Yeah. Now the opening date, you will see that by default, it gives the date of the day, today, sorry, and it will calculate 1 month further. Now you see that you have the possibility to change that, to shorten it or to extend it a bit. That's up to you. There's a possibility to add a note, should that be required, or and you can add the comment type. So important to know that at the moment that you will create the questions, whenever you select the possibility to add comments, you will have to decide first if you want online comments in an open text field or if you want them to use the file attachment. So let's do the file attachment to show you that, and you do save. Now, as soon as you have saved the first step, in fact, of the vote creation, you will see that there is here a button, Configure Questionnaire. So now you've in fact filled in all the metadata of the vote, but you do not yet have any questions related to this. So we will configure some questions related to that. So I didn't really pay attention, but you have to, of course, select a period that is valid, let's say. I've selected the date of today, which didn't allow me to create my questionnaire. So let's take the date of tomorrow. And normally, if we click questionnaire now, it doesn't work. Wait a second, I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. So in fact, whenever you do some little minor change like I just did for the date, you have to save before. So I did a save. I clicked on the questionnaire button and here we go. So first of all, you will have to number your question. Most logical is to start with number 1, of course. And then you enter your question here in the text field and you select the possible answers in these drop-down menus. Now I've prepared a little notepad here with my questions because we're going to create a fake vote for a new work item, in fact. So the first question might be, we agree that a proposed CENELEC deliverable on the subject is feasible and therefore agree to the addition of the proposed new work item to the program of the work of this committee. And we say yes, people can say no, or they can, for example, abstain. And for each answer, in fact, to the question, you will have to select as well if the comment is optional, if there is absolutely no comment allowed, or if a comment is required. And this is where you see what you've selected in the previous step. I've selected the file attachment, meaning that people who will vote will have to use the commenting template. Now let's take for this the comment as an optional option and save. So my first question is created. Let's take another one. Prepare that as well in relation to any other relevant documentation already existing in your country, which might be a useful question as well if you are about to create a new work item. Sorry. Here we are. Oh. We select no, sorry, yes, no, and then the fact that a comment is required using the template. I think that's the yes. Okay, and save. Now, in fact, you can save as many questions at this moment with the metadata that I've selected before as we want. Number 3 or question 3, do you wish to add any additional questions? That's always a useful question as well to allow people to enter their own comments and ask them to enter them or enter comments as an optional option. Now, and save. The last question is in fact related to a commitment, let's say. So we are committed to participate actively in the development of the project, at least by commenting on the working draft. So let's take that as number 4 and say yes, no, and comment is possible, and save. Okay. Now, if you go back now to my list of votes, no, back to list here, we will see that the test for the creation of that new work item is visible in my list of opened votes. Now the vote will be opening for the voters at the date that I've selected when creating the vote. And as a vote owner, I have this little pencil here because I have the possibility until the day before the vote opens to submit any changes. So in case I did not yet have the link saved on Collaboration Tool, for example, I can still add it afterwards. If I want to shorten my vote period a bit, I can still do that before the vote opens, etc. Now, it's important to know that you cannot add or modify questions anymore when the vote is open, of course. Now, I suggest that I connect as a voter. So this is the view that you see for a vote owner. Let's now connect as a voter to see what a voter can do when a vote is open. So this person here, I'm connected on the same platform, the same way as a vote owner, but with a login of somebody that has the permissions to vote for CENELEC Subcommittee 9XA. Let's take an example that I've created before. You will see that for all votes that are open, there is that little voting form, in fact, in front of it. You will also see that there is here this example of a vote open because it's visible, but I do not have the permissions because I do not have vote permissions for this subcommittee. That's why there is no voting form for this line. So let's take this example here that is open and that I have permissions for. I will see, of course, the metadata of the vote and the questions that were created by the secretary. The same, in fact, as the ones that I've created in my example just a few minutes ago. And I have the possibility to enter the questions. Sorry, the answers, of course. And you see that if I select yes, there is the possibility or the comment in this case of this example, in the case of yes, is required. And the secretary has decided that the comments should be entered by using the template. So this is why we have at the bottom the possibility to add a file attachment. So you simply browse to your computer where you saved your comment file. The comment file is, by the way, available on the CENELEC boss. There is a link in the PowerPoint presentation, so you can open that right away when you receive the presentation later today. Let me check for an example. I think this one. This is a good example because the file must be in a doc or a docx file extension. So you cannot save or upload PDFs, Excel files. No, we need to have it in a Word file, in fact. So here we go. And you click on reply. So I've entered all the answers. I've uploaded my comment file. And as soon as that is done, I've voted or I've commented. In this case, I have a voter permission. You will see that the voting form for that specific vote becomes orange. Now, as long as the vote is open, so in this case, until the 21st of July, I have the possibility to go back, open the voting form and the answers, and change my answers if needed, and upload eventually a new file and say reply again. Should you want to do it like that, you can even push the reset button you will see that it resets all the answers I've given before, and you can play around with that and save it again and reply. So the last reply, let's call it like that, that is saved under your account, the date of the closure of the vote is the one, of course, that is taken into account. Now, let me check. Yes, I think I've covered everything for voting permissions. Now let's go onto the application again, but now with a commenter role. So you will see that I'm again connected, but with another login, and that person has commenting permissions for CENELEC Subcommittee 9XA. You can see that because these are the ones that I have an active commenting form for. And you will see that I, instead of the V form, you see a little C on the icon. You also recognize immediately that I've already voted for this vote because the icon was orange. The vote is still open until the 21st of July, so I still can adapt my answers if needed. My answers, not really my answers, because like I said, I'm connected as a commenter. A commenter will see the questions, but I do not, I'm clicking now, I do not have the possibility to enter answers to the questions. No, I have only the possibility to comment. So I can say no comments, or I attach a file with my comments like I've done already before. So like I said before in the beginning, it's up to the TC secretary to decide on the way the comments are submitted. So either it is an open text field, or you will have to attach an attachment in the form, like it's the case here. Now let's go back to the vote owner role, because as soon as the vote is closed, the closed votes and the results will be visible for you in the closed section here. So we have one example, it looks quite similar. And via the voting form again, only the vote owner will see an overview of the voting results. So in this example, we see that we have received 6 responses, 29 are missing. Of course, this is an example. You see again the metadata of the vote, the opening date and the closing date, and you see the countries that voted, when the vote was received, and what was their answer to the questions. Now, as a vote owner, you can also click on Update, and Update allows you to, of course, update the question or the answer on the question given by a specific member, in this case, Austria. In case Austria, for example, after the vote closure informed you about the fact that, I don't know, they made a mistake, they changed their mind, or they do have some comments, and you can add them yourself. So let's go back to the list. So this is only possible, just to make sure that it's clear, this is only possible for the vote owner. Somebody who has vote permissions cannot go back into the vote after the closure to update or change the results or the vote answers, of course. Okay. Yeah. I think that's about it. Let me go back to my presentation to make sure that we covered everything. Here we were. So I showed you the CIV interface over here. Showed you that there is a possibility for the vote owner to check the open votes as well as the closed votes. Of course, we've seen the creation of a vote. Yes, I didn't really mention that, but you can, of course, group your votes by TC or end date via the tool. The columns, in fact, are sortable, or you can use a specific filter, selecting, for example, the end date of a vote. We've seen how to fill in the template with the metadata, and we've seen also which kind of information is compulsory, and that you have the possibility to add a document hyperlink, preferably the one that is already uploaded on Collaboration Tool. And then we've seen how to create your questions via the questionnaire template, in fact. This is the example that I've saved for the demo, so you can read it back if you want to. I've explained also that the vote order can then edit metadata or modify the questions as long as the vote is open. And then we've seen how to actually vote or comment on an open vote, like this. Hop. I've told you that there's a possibility to change your mind and to enter new answers should that be necessary, but before the closure of the vote, of course. And then we've seen that the TC secretary has the possibility to check the voting results for each member, in fact, and that they have the possibility to update the votes for the other members or add even votes after the closure of the vote. Like this, yes. Yeah, that's about it. Now, should you have questions, there will be a user guide soon available on the CENELEC website. For functional and technical issues, sorry, there is the email address itsupport@cenelec.eu. Should it be more a business-related question, of course, we advise you to contact your CCMC contact point here at CCMC. And if the content is a bit is questioning you, you can of course ask the TC secretary because he or she is responsible for the creations of the vote and the content of them.